name's Chris, and today we're going to be looking at cutting a few different pieces with the K40 CO2 laser that you see behind me here. And last time we looked at etching glass with the laser, and today we're going to be looking at maybe trying a few wooden keyrings and also possibly trying a few perspex pieces. And you'll see these on the table that I have prepared earlier over here. Now I'll just explain what these are. And these wooden pieces were cut from a Christmas tree which I had a few years ago, and they're cut using a Japanese saw, which is a very fine blade. So whenever you're cutting with the Japanese saw, it makes the cut very smooth, so you don't have to do too much sanding to get a smooth surface from your piece. And of course you can cut straight or you can cut diagonally, which produces a different size of keyring just for a different logo or a different verse. And you'll see here that you can also make larger pieces that are like plaques, which stand up on a mantelpiece. So this wood, the Christmas tree wood, is very easy to cut because the grain is very far apart. And over here we have some cherry wood pieces, which I found cut from a cherry wood branch, and the grain is very close together in these pieces, so it's quite hard to cut, but it's a very tough wood, so it's not going to break easily, which is good. So if you're cutting pieces for like a keyring, you want them to be quite thick, so that whenever the piece is maybe undergoing stress or strain against the keys, that it's not going to split easily. So whenever you have your piece prepared and the logo etched on them, then what I normally do is take a drill and drill a hole and then put through one of these keyrings that I got from eBay, and then I can make a nice keyring on it. And what happens after that is that I apply this mineral oil. This is Original Wood Tops mineral oil, which it says it's used for chopping boards and butcher's blocks, but that's very handy because it keeps the wood nice and moist, and it darkens it down a little bit as well, which prevents it from cracking or whenever it dries or splitting. So that's what we have to work with today. And this is also a coffee jar, which although the jar itself is a bit too big to fit into the vise of the K40, the lid of the jar is a nice size, and it's good to be able to put a logo or a verse just on the top there of the lid of the coffee jar. Now that glass is quite thick, so we normally increase the power of the laser a bit to make a deep etching on that glass. So I'll maybe give that a go later on as well. Now I'm just going to show you the laser tube itself, just where you need to make sure that there's no air bubbles that are trapped before you start to cut with the laser. And I'll just take this fan out of the way, and then the back opens up, and if you look just at the top here, you'll see that there's quite a big air bubble that has gathered just at the end there, and then also over here sometimes there's one or two just gather at the start of the tube. So what we normally do is we just gently tilt the K40 on its end, just to allow those air bubbles to flow out of the tube and back into the reservoir, and hopefully we should get most of the air bubbles removed that way, just so that whenever we start to cut, the laser tube doesn't heat up too quickly. So the first piece I'm going to try here is this diagonal piece. I'm going to put the shop logo on it, just so we'll open up the cover and get it positioned well in the vise, and just make sure it's fairly straight and it's not going to go anywhere. So that's the laser initializing, and I showed you last week about this laser pointer and how it's attached to this button cell battery. And what we do is we just plug it in to this laser pointer that's attached to the laser head, and we're going to just adjust it so it's pointing at the center of the piece that we want to burn. So we open our design in K40 Whisperer. So we click initialize laser cutter first, just to make the connection okay, and then we will be moving the design using these arrow buttons, which moves the laser head to the correct position to start the job. So you can see the laser pointer light there just moving, and I'm going to make sure it's in the center of where we want to be cutting. And it's handy, the tree rings can provide like a target just of where the center of the piece is. It doesn't always work because sometimes there might be irregularities in the wood, but for most pieces the rings are fairly uniform, and it's a good indicator of where the center is of the design. And I'll just move it to the extremities again just to see if we need to cut the size of the logo down a bit just to fit onto the wood, but this seems to be just the right size. Again, you don't want to be going too close to the edge, just in case the design runs off the edge of the wood. So as we're etching on wood, we want a nice black image to be on the wood. We don't want it too light, otherwise you won't be able to see what the writing says. So we're going to cut the raster engraved speed down to 20 millimeters per second, and that allows the wood to burn while it's cutting, just so it'll leave a good black image on the wood. Now if you're cutting large pieces, you probably want to make sure that anything in the compartment here doesn't catch fire, because slow burning can cause fires to start, so just be careful whenever you're burning large pieces that you don't start a fire inside the machine. Now I'm going to open the window and put the pipe outside just so plenty of ventilation so it doesn't get too smoky. And then I'm going to engage the laser just by pressing this laser switch. That turns the laser on, and because we're burning wood and we want a good black image, we're going to turn the power down a good bit, just probably quite low, just so it doesn't burn through the wood, but it leaves a good black mark on it, and we'll see how that goes. So I'm going to take the laser pointer battery off, and I'm going to start the job and go around the corner just so I don't get hit by any stray laser beams, and we'll see how this job works out. So I'll just disengage the laser just before we take the piece out. And you'll see that the image has come out very black, and there is a bit of shadow just wherever the heat from the laser has been sucked out the vent, the air vent. So what we'll do is we'll just give it a light sand just over the piece, just to take that off and to leave the engraving just on the wooden piece. I'll just cut a piece of this magnetic strip just to the right size for the back of it, and it's not too strong a magnet, so I need plenty of it just on the back, and just cut that with a pair of scissors. And then the back just peels off and it gets stuck onto the wooden piece. And then I'll just apply some of the mineral oil now to the piece with a paintbrush, and that'll just make the wood nice and moist and it won't dry out. And apply plenty of it. Just, you see it darkens down quite a bit as well whenever you're applying it, so you can see what parts you've put on. And it soaks through the grain, so you need to put it on nice and thick. And I did try with varnish as well to see how it would look on the keyrings, but I find that varnish tends to leave a sort of plasticky look to it, which I didn't like, and I like the natural effect of the wood, the grain and the colour of the wood, so the mineral oil brings that out very well. We just do the back of it there with the mineral oil. And once that's done, you just leave it to dry, leave it to soak in. So that's how we make wooden plaques and fridge magnets on the K40 CO2 laser.